One, this is not a 737 problem, it's a Boeing problem. And I know the FAA's gone in and they've done due diligence and inspections to assure that the door plugs of the 737 are installed properly and the fasteners are torqued properly. But my concern is what's the rest of the airplane? What's the rest of the condition of the airplane? And the reason my concern for that is back in 2012, Boeing started removing inspection operations off their jobs. So it left the mechanics to buy off their own work. So what we're seeing with the door plug blowout is what I've seen with the rest of the airplane as far as jobs not being completed properly, inspection steps being removed, issues being ignored. My concerns are with the 737 and the 787 because those programs have really embraced the theory that quality is overhead and non-value added. So those two programs have really put a strong effort into removing quality from the process. When I first started working at Charleston, I was in charge with pushing back defects to our suppliers. And what that meant was I'd take a group of inspectors and actually go to the supplier and inspect their product before they sent it in. Well, I'd taken a team of 4 inspectors to Spirit Aero Systems to inspect the 41 section before they sent it to Charleston. And we found 300 defects. Some of them were significant that needed engineering intervention. When I returned to Charleston, my senior manager told me that we had found too many defects and he was going to take the next trip. So the next trip he went on, he took 2 of my inspectors. And when they got back, they were given accolades for only finding 50 defects. So I pulled that inspector aside and I said, did Spirit really clean up their act that quick? That don't sound right. And she was mad. She said, no, said the 2 inspectors were given 2 hours to inspect the whole 41 section and they were kicked off the airplane.
So that man was found dead a couple of days ago. I guess exposing a $120 billion company for cutting corners on assembly lines on its airplanes is so overwhelming, puts a lot of stress on an individual. I don't see many people believing that, though. Even left-leaning journalists and right-wing journalists, they seem to have doubts. But for some reason, they're not really publishing stories, right? Like, you can't question these things. Like, if this was happening in Russia, if this man was Prigozhin, and, he happened to die in a plane crash or something, then all of a sudden it's okay to ask questions. But if it's happening in the United States, it's something in the soil, I guess, something in the air where you're not allowed to ask questions. Is this something that happens normally, though? Is this what people do nowadays? Like, if you set yourself an ambitious goal and you want to see it through, do you press Alt F4 before the goal is finished? Interesting. And I bet he didn't leave any sort of documents or any sort of things, like a letter or a note or... No? Boeing apparently did offer its sympathies, so we do have that. Now, what's the thing with Boeing? Why is everyone talking about it? Well, it's been in the news a lot recently, hasn't it? I remember when I took my first plane trip, I was actually worried about flying. Understandable, most people are before they fly the first time. And you look around the internet and you see, okay, well, apparently flying is actually very safe. There aren't many issues. But recently there have been a lot of issues. Like just a couple of days ago, there was a tire that fell from a plane and smashed a car that was underneath. And then you also had the situation with the door that blew out, which that guy was talking about, and many other things, right? So people are indeed getting concerned. Now, a lot of individuals are blaming this on diversity hirings, on the checkboxes. And, as much as I like to go against the checkboxes, I have to say that in this particular situation, it doesn't seem to be the case. Because all of these planes that are showing damages right now, they have been built around 2016 or 2012. And we are witnessing the damage of that now. What the checkboxes will do, like what the diversity will do, we're going to see in the future. So we have yet to experience the wonders of diversity. I assume that, now that we have competent pilots, because up until now we didn't, but now that diversity is here, then it's going to be improved. and the pilots are going to compensate for the technical errors that we're seeing, right? But we're only going to see that in the future. So up until then, up until we actually get to see that, we're going to have to hold with Boeing for a little longer. Hopefully the planes don't disintegrate. What happened back then, what happened in 2012 and 2016 is that the company decided to cut costs, dramatically so. And some of the costs that they cut were to fire people that were in position of quality control, like we saw with these inspectors, and they would hire no one instead. Or if they, from what I heard, if they had a plane that required an inspection at a certain point, so like you need to make an inspection after 10 years or whatever, right before the inspection was due, they would sell the plane to another company. Like they would do all of these mishmashes. They would do all of these underhanded tactics. And we would have found out about what those tactics were had this whistleblower managed to whistle. But unfortunately, he's not going to whistle now. So Boeing's secrets are going to remain secret for a little while longer. Apparently, in the days before his death, he had been given evidence in a whistleblower lawsuit against the company. Boeing said it was saddened to hear about his passing. I mean, of course they are. It is said that the 62-year-old has died from self-inflicted wound on 9th of March, and the police is still investigating. But what's interesting is that even if you suggest that the police investigation may lead to that it wasn't a case of self-inflicted, you're like a conspiracy theorist. It's like, well, sure, but like, can I not make my own mind about what I'm seeing? Is that, am I not allowed? Are we not allowed? Okay, we're not allowed. I understand. So like, if you actually predict how the investigation is going to end, and you predict that, yes, the wounds are self-inflicted, then you're a decent member of society. But if you predict the opposite, you're a dangerous conspiracy theorist lunatic. Even though that the investigation is going on right now, so no one knows, right? Mr. Bennett had worked for the US plane giant for 32 years. From 2010, he worked as a quality manager, a state-of-the-art airline used mainly on long hauls. 2019, he said that under pressure, workers had been deliberately fitting substandard parts to the aircraft on the production line. He also said that he uncovered serious problems with the oxygen systems, which could mean that 1 in 4 masks would break and would not work in the case of an emergency. He said soon after work in South Carolina, he had become concerned that the push to get new aircraft built meant that assembly process was rushed and safety was compromised. So these are the aircraft that are currently breaking down today. Like what we are seeing now is due to mainly this. He later told the BBC that workers had failed to follow procedures intended to track components through factory, allowing effective components to go missing. He said that in some cases, substandard parts had even been removed from the scrap bins and fitted into planes that were being built to prevent delays. He also claimed that the tests on emergency oxygen systems failed. Boeing denied his assertions. However, a 2017 review by the US regulator did uphold some of the concerns from Mr. Barnett. It established that the location of at least 53 non-conforming parts in the factory was unknown and that they were considered lost. Boeing was ordered to take immediate action. At the case of his death, he had been in Charleston for legal interviews linked to the case. Last week, he gave a formal deposition in which he was questioned by Boeing's lawyers before being cross-examined by his own counsel. He had been due to undergo further questioning on Saturday when he did not appear. He was subsequently found dead in his truck in the hotel car park. How does that happen, though? In a statement, Boeing, we are saddened about his passing and our thoughts are with his family and friends. His death comes at a time when production standards at both Boeing and its key supplier are under intense scrutiny. Yeah. It's very interesting. Yeah. What can I say? What am I allowed to say? That's another question, huh? Let me know what you guys think, and I'll see you in the comment section. Take care.